Hey there, it's Tamara Keith from the NPR Politics Podcast, and I will keep this quick. Giving Tuesday is almost here, the perfect time to support the independent news source you rely on to stay informed. Please give today at donate.npr.org. And thank you.
Hey y'all, it's Brittany. And I hope you had a nice Thanksgiving or at least got to spend some time with friends and family. Before we start the show, I want to take a step back and talk about what makes It's Been a Minute and everything you hear from NPR possible. It's you. I appreciate you unpacking the latest in culture with me every week because from brands shying away from woke politics to why the same songs keep dominating the music charts, y'all know it doesn't happen by accident. So thank you so much if you already support this work through NPR Plus or by donating to your local station. Your generosity fuels one of the most trusted news sources in America today. And if you haven't made the leap to contributing yet, Giving Tuesday is almost here, so it's the perfect time to help keep It's Been a Minute going. Sign up for perks across more than 25 podcasts with NPR Plus today. It's a tax-deductible donation, so you can feel good about it while you enjoy sponsor-free listening to this show. Join us at plus.npr.org. That's plus.npr.org. And that link is also in our episode show notes. And, of course, you can always make a gift at donate.npr.org. Thank you so much. And now, let's get to some culture. Hello, hello. I'm Brittany Luse, and you're listening to It's Been a Minute from NPR, a show about what's going on in culture and why it doesn't happen by accident. Say you've been talking to someone on an app. You meet up on a date. Mm-hmm. It's going well. And then they ask you how much money you make. How do you react?
I think that I would either go into a blind panic, or if I had a little bit more presence of mind, I think I would deflect with a joke. I would say something like, I get paid in tote bags. And then I would just try to wrap things up ASAP and get out of there.
Did you hear that? It's the sound of cuffing season. The time of year where the weather cools down and folks look for a warm body to cuddle up with. For you skeptics out there, yes, cuffing season is real. The data from a few different dating sites show an increase in activity from November through February. But we're getting into some of the less warm and fuzzy aspects of dating. For the next couple of weeks on It's Been a Minute, we're kicking off cuffing season with some of the big questions and big debates about dating. This week, a lot of us have heard this one song on TikTok about looking for a partner.
I'm looking for a man in finance. Trust fund. 6'5", blue eyes. Finance.
This song went super viral this year, and it is just kind of fun and silly, but maybe it speaks to a broader desire to find someone who's more than comfortable financially. Well, to that end, is it okay to ask about salary on a first date? We asked people on the street to hear what they had to say.
No way.
Why not?
There are 1,000 other things that you can talk about or know about than numbers.
On the first date?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
I generally feel like more salary transparency is good, and if we just like made it less of a weird thing to talk about, then that would be good for everyone.
So clearly, finance in romance is a contentious subject. So I am so excited to welcome Wailin Wong, one of the hosts of NPR's The Indicator, and Reema Khrais, host of Marketplace's This Is Uncomfortable.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
We're going to get into how to navigate money in dating and what we're really looking for from a man in finance. So asking about salary in the first date, it's contentious. It would be a bit too much for me, but I don't know. Talking about salary is just one aspect of getting to know someone else's relationship to money. And so I wonder, when and why should people talk about money in the dating process? And what kind of information do people need to know about prospective partners?
I think that it's the question of when is it appropriate is less to me a question of absolute timescales and more of a question of context and stages of a relationship. Like, to me, if you're getting the sense that your finances and your lives might be entangled in a more substantive way beyond, oh, who's paying for this date or something. You know, like if it's getting serious, if you think you could spend a lot of time with this person, like you said, Brittany, it goes beyond salary, right? So kind of like, what are your feelings about debt and how much debt you hold, how much debt you're comfortable holding? You know, what are your...
I'm sorry, I had to back away from the microphone.
Sorry, you got the vapors.
I'm like, oh my God, I don't even like talking about that now. Yeah.
But I mean, that's real, you know, like, ooh. That's a huge one. And, you know, what financial obligations might you have related to other people? Are you a caregiver? Do you anticipate being a caregiver? You know, what are the demands on your finances? And like, these are all kind of clues you're gathering about like, what kind of person is this? And is it the kind of person I want to be with?
Yeah. I mean, those are tough questions to answer, but I agree. It's so important to have those conversations early on. I've interviewed so many people over the years who delayed having those conversations and led to financial infidelity, right? Like financial cheating on someone, basically hiding your debt and your accounts from your partner.
Whoa.
Taking a step back, it does take a while, I think, to understand people's relationship with money. And it's a challenge because oftentimes I think they don't quite know themselves. And I think that's because so much of it is driven by our unconscious beliefs about messages that we internalized and inherited when we were younger. I love the work of Brad Klontz. He's a financial therapist, and he breaks it down into 4 core money beliefs. So he says there are people who are money avoidant, money worshipers, money status, and money vigilance.
Ooh, this is deep.
Pause. Is there a BuzzFeed quiz I can take?
There is a quiz, actually. If you
Okay. I will be bookmarking that.
And so, briefly, money avoiders are what they sound like. They try to not think about money. They're the people in your life who might ignore financial statements, more likely to overspend. They might also think that they don't deserve money or that money leads to greed and corruption. So they're more likely to sabotage their finances. Money vigilant people are vigilant, right? They're concerned with their financial health. They might like a good bargain. They tend to be somewhat more anxious about their future, which pushes them to save. Money worshipers, they think that money will ultimately make them happy. It is the solution to all their problems. And they're more likely to put their career ahead of things like, you know, family and friends. And then money status seekers, they are folks who are more likely to link their self-worth to how much they make, and they tend to value outward displays of wealth, which can lead to overspending. And so they may have come from a household where money was tight, but they valued people with money and saw them as worthy, right? And so those are very crude buckets, and obviously you can identify with more than one of those. But I think it's such a helpful framework to prompt you to think more critically about your own money beliefs and who you might be more aligned with. And then, you know, hopefully that can make you feel more curious about your date's financial behaviors and attitudes and where they come from and how they show up.
That is so interesting. Even just hearing each of those categories, I was like, oh yeah, I could probably slot myself or most people that I know into one of those 4. I mean, there was a couple of them. I think like there was something in each category that I was like, oh.
Feeling a little attacked.
I was like, am I being spied on? Like, what's going on? Coming up, is dating up in class even possible? Stay with us.
If you're the kind of person whose idea of a good party conversation starts with, I heard it on NPR, it might be time to take your super fandom seriously. Deck yourself out in style. NPR swag, from t-shirts to ball caps to the almighty NPR tote, are all at 25% off through December 1st at shop.npr.org.
Hey fam, Scott Simon here. I'm in my fundraising era. Had a little help from Gen Z on this script. NPR is always cooking, no cap. So when I say Giving Tuesday is coming, I think you understand the assignment. Please donate today. Make your gift at donate.npr.org. Thanks, bestie.
Holiday travel is stressful, especially if you're dealing with family baggage on top of your actual baggage.
I'm going home. I'm going to revert back to old family roles that are stressful. And so this traffic jam is the straw that's breaking the camel's back.
But don't worry, we're here to bring you some relief. Listen to the Life Kit podcast. We'll help you out this holiday season.
I'm Jesse Thorne. On Bullseye, Connie Chung, the legend of TV news, tells us about her incredible career and marvels at the convenience of standing desks.
They have these desks here in New York that move up and down.
That's on the next Bullseye from MaximumFun.org and NPR.
Okay, let's get into the looking for a man in finance of it all. It was this super viral song on TikTok.
I could hum it right now.
I'm looking for a man in finance. Trust fund. 6'5", blue eyes. Finance.
It's catchy, but a lot of the people that we talked to on the street for this said that they might not ask on the first date, but they wanted to look for clues to see that people might make about the same, or hopefully, I think for some of the people we talked to, more than they do. Here's what a few of them said.
I would never ask about a person's salary on a first date. However, you kind of know before you go on a first date with someone exactly what they say their career is. Then you can kind of guesstimate.
Okay, so you kind of do a little sleuthing, it sounds like, and try to keep it low key.
Yeah, it's important to me to know what line of work you're in, and that takes care of the question.
Oh, so you're talking and you're like, what do you do? And then they're like, I do this. And then like, oh, my friend actually just got a raise up to blah, blah, blah amount. And you're like, okay, cool. So then it gives you like a ballpark of something.
That sounds like kind of almost triangulating to try to get
Oh, yeah, you got to manipulate on the first date.
Oh!
Like it was gauche to ask, but they still wanted to know that information. And online, we see a lot of people on social media talking about hypergamy, the practice of dating up in class. What's going on here?
Yeah, I don't find it so surprising that people have this preference. I do think it's interesting that people are talking about it more openly. I think a lot of that has to do with the messaging that people are exposed to online. I think it normalizes that desire in a way that makes it easier to say out loud. But, I think as long as we live in a patriarchal society that glamorizes consumption and wealth, and a society where home ownership continues to feel out of reach and young people are increasingly burdened with student debt, then you're always going to find some people who gravitate towards the idea of dating up or marrying rich. And of course, that preference might guide people to different degrees in the same way that you might prefer someone who's tall or someone who appreciates nature. It doesn't mean that you're immediately going to disqualify a potential partner if they don't have that quality, but it does seem to be something that I think people are increasingly considering given just our economic realities.
I saw one survey that says that 20% of millennial men and 21% of millennial women want a partner that makes more than them. So roughly the same amount of each group, but only 7% of Gen Z men and 31% of Gen Z women want a partner that makes more than them. What do you think is driving these generational changes?
That's interesting.
It is interesting.
That's
interesting. I mean, I think going back to what I said, sure, of course, social media plays a role here, right? And I'm sure y'all have covered this on the show, the trad
wives.
The trad life.
Trad wives, yes,
trad
we
wives,
have.
right?
Yes,
Subculture of young influencers, teaching their followers the benefits of marrying rich and how to live a soft life.
In my relationship with my husband, I'm letting him take on the reins. I am. I'm more feminine. I'm more in my soft era. And it's helping our relationship so much more because he gets to be the man in the relationship.
But without getting deep into that trend, which has gotten plenty of pushback, I do think it speaks to some larger ideas and anxieties. I think a lot of people, especially those looking for heterosexual relationships, they're just tired. I mean, I think they're disillusioned by the dating scene, truly by the dating apps and all the decision fatigue and the situationships that come along with that. And so I think on social media, you hear a lot of people talking about knowing your worth, being unapologetic about what you want in a relationship.
I'm not going to sit here and prove my worth. I'm not going to try to manipulate you to believe that I'm better than anybody else. I know that I am.
And so I think there's that. That's one reason, I imagine. And then also, I think women now account for more than half of the college-educated labor force. And so I can imagine increasingly for some women, they're looking for partners who can, match their educational achievements and where they are in life. There's that reality. We all know the gender pay gap. It makes sense, again, that a lot of these social and economic realities would prompt some younger women, I think, to reevaluate how they want to organize their lives and what they want in a relationship.
And I think the economic precarity you talked about earlier plays into this too, right? Where maybe the idea that many people are a hair's breadth away, like one medical emergency away from complete financial ruin. I don't know if that, weighs more heavily on a younger generation. There's this website, Investopedia. They define economic terms, very nice resource online.
Right.
And they recently did this thing where they calculated the cost of the American dream for 2023. So it's like, how much do you need to retire? How much does it cost to buy a new car? What does it cost to put on a wedding?
I'm wincing, like I'm bracing myself.
I know, right?
Raise 2 children, put them through 4-year college, home ownership, pets, an annual vacation, and a funeral. They fold that cost into.
Full life.
The full life and, cradle to grave. And so for 2023, that amount was $4.4 million is the price tag they came up with. And they said that this is $1 million more than most Americans make in a lifetime.
Stop it.
What?
So it's like, if we've set up these expectations, literally there's like no money to pay for it. So it's like, what are we all doing here? And I think that anxiety trickles down.
Yeah. All right. Wailin, Reema, and I have so much more to get into. We're looking into whether or not it's really possible to date up in class. Stick around.
Thanksgiving was a national holiday created in the middle of the Civil War to unify a country that was split in two. Learn about the origins of Thanksgiving and how the unity and division that we see at our Thanksgiving tables was there from the very beginning. Listen to the Throughline podcast from NPR.
Take a moment to unwind and give thanks this week with NPR's All Songs Considered, as listeners share their favorite songs of gratitude.
This song speaks to me, and the basic thing is everybody turns, and lands in the place that they need to be.
Download new episodes of All Songs Considered every Tuesday wherever you get podcasts.
The marketing for the movie Wicked has been inescapable. There's all the green and pink merch, and Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo have been everywhere, but does the movie live up to the hype? We know you've been waiting for this one. We've seen Wicked, and we have thoughts, and we'll get to them all, including some weirdly heated opinions on Defying Gravity. Listen to the Pop Culture Happy Hour podcast from NPR.
Here and Now Anytime is a podcast with fresh takes on the biggest stories of the day, and also a little something you weren't expecting from a news show. One thing we're wondering lately, is Black Friday a ripoff? Peel back the marketing blitz, and what do you have left? That's coming up on Here and Now Anytime, wherever you listen to podcasts.
I see a lot of this like hypergamy content online, right? Whether it's facetious or more serious. Like, what's the reality of hypergamy? To me, it just seems like there wouldn't be enough super high earning people in this country to actually satisfy the dating demand out there for people who are looking for a partner who makes a lot of money.
I think that for the most part, people are finding partners within their own social class broadly. Economists would call this positive assortative mating. Like calls to like. You find someone who is kind of like you. So I think you don't see a lot of marrying across classes. One of the most interesting things that I came across when I was preparing for this conversation was a book by 2 law professors, June Carbone and Naomi Kahn. It's called Marriage Markets, How Inequality is Remaking the American Family.
Ooh,
and I know, let's sit with that for a little bit. And they talked about how if you look at working class / blue collar jobs, those have gotten really hollowed out in the U.S., right? If you think about manufacturing jobs, you think about the decline of unions, that makes men in this class less desirable as marriage prospects. They also note that mass incarceration, unfortunately, has diminished the literal pool of men within the working class. And so in the working class, women outnumber the men. And they say that this dynamic is different at the top with high earners, where there's actually not as many highly educated professional women as there are men. And so women can afford to be pickier in the highest income bracket.
Wait, women who are in the highest income bracket can afford to be pickier is what you're saying?
Yeah, because there's not as many of them as there are men. And so they get their pick of the men.
Wow.
It's because of this positive assortative mating thing where, you know, it's like Don Draper, if you watch Mad Men, like the Don Drapers of the world used to marry their secretaries. He married Meghan. Now, someone like Don Draper is more likely to marry another high-powered ad executive.
Peggy.
You know, because you're looking for someone who is like you in education and kind of level of professionalism and career.
I wonder, ultimately, what are people really looking for when they are looking for a partner with financial stability? Like, what problem are they trying to solve for?
I think oftentimes when people are talking about money, they're not really talking about that. They're getting at what it represents to them, their underlying desires and fears. Like what they might be really craving is a sense of safety or a sense of belonging or a feeling of worthiness. And I think, again, a lot of that can go back to your childhood. You know, maybe watching your parents argue over the bills, you learned to equate financial stability with calmness and peace. Or maybe in your household, you absorbed early messages connecting financial success with worthiness. And so a partner's financial stability might feel like a form of validation, something that can protect you from feeling inadequate or unlovable. In general, when you're dating on some level, consciously, subconsciously, I do think we are searching for partners who can help repair some emotional wounds.
Right. That's all kind of tied into this like primal kind of subconscious, like what do I need to survive? And I think we're broadly all looking to get beyond that where we can really like be self-actualized and get beyond survival. Like what do we really want? And so I think it's like a partner is part of that story, but living in the world that we do, having some amount of money and financial stability is also part of that story. So you can't separate what you're looking for in a partner from the cold hard cash you need to kind of make your life happen in the way you want it to.
Still got to pay the bills.
Still got to pay the bills, yeah.
You know, in my experience, specifically with money and getting together with my husband, when we met, my husband had an internship 3 days a week, and I was a 365 party girl. And I was like, but we both recognized that we had like a similar drive and resilience. As our EP Jasmine said recently, sometimes you got to buy futures in someone.
I love that.
Yeah. She was like, you know, it sounds like you bought futures in your husband. I was like, girl, my husband was he bought a lot of futures in me.
That's great.
I love that framing.
A lot of people are like undervalued stocks. Like, and if you see the potential, you could reap the reward.
That's so real.
You got your ROI, your return on investment.
I love how romantic this conversation sounds. We're like, ROIs, get your future stocks.
Well, oh my gosh. Wailin, Reema, thank you so much. It was so great to have you both. This was so great.
It was so fun.
This was a blast. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
That was Wailin Wong, one of the hosts of NPR's The Indicator, and Reema Khrais, host of Marketplace's This Is Uncomfortable. Also, to all you listening, we want to hear from you. Would you look for a partner in finance? What do you think? Sound off in the comments, respond to our Spotify poll, or send us an email at ibam@npr.org. That's ibam@npr.org. This episode of It's Been a Minute was produced by
Liam McBain.
Barton Girdwood.
Our executive producer is
Jasmine Romero.
Our VP of programming is
Yolanda Sanguini.
All right, that's all for this episode of It's Been a Minute from NPR. I'm Brittany Luse. Talk soon.
It's almost Thanksgiving, and if you're hosting this year, how well do you know how to cook the main event?
A turkey, in the grand scheme of things, not actually that hard. There's just a couple little things you have to keep in mind. It requires a little bit of planning ahead.
On a new episode of Life Kit, we talk turkey. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
On the Embedded podcast, every Marine takes an oath to protect the Constitution.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
This is the story of a Marine in the Capitol on January 6th. Did he break his oath? And what does that mean for all of us? Listen to A Good Guy on the Embedded podcast from NPR. Both episodes available now.
Some of our favorite planets aren't even real. But could they be? Here on Shortwave, we journey to other planets, distant galaxies in our universe and in our favorite works of science fiction. Listen now to the Shortwave Podcast from NPR.